Hello, this is Eric Daly, and welcome to Week 5 Mini Learning Module, as we will talk about communications. Here are this week's learning outcomes. We will first define communication and strategy, ways to improve communication skills. We will also talk about communication scenarios in the workplace, know what makes people listen, and the difference between persuasion and manipulation. Communication and strategy. Communication is not just about sending a message, it's about the transfer of meaning. Now, to communicate strategically means several things. First, it means that your plans for communication, your proposed messages, the medium or media you select, the code you employ, the context and experience you bring to situations, and the ethics you adopt will all have a direct effect on the outcome. Now, the effect of the message or transfer of meaning will depend on the frame of mind you bring to the situation. To develop a communication strategy that will help you and your organization achieve the goals you have set for yourselves, you first must ask yourself a few questions related to the elements of communication. First, who should communicate this message? Next, who is the intended audience for this message? What should your message contain? What's the best way to send this message? Encoding your message means selecting the right words and images. What's the reaction of your audience? How many other senders and messages are out there? And last, you must know how to motivate others. Now let's talk about ways to improve communication skills. First, you must listen. Most of us are terrible at listening. Instead of truly listening to what the person is saying, we interrupt, prepare our response, or think we already know what the speaker is going to say next. Second, pay attention to the body language. Body language can tell you just as much as what a person says, if not more. Next, consider communication preference. Not everyone likes to communicate the same way. Email works for some, but others rather pick up the phone or talk in person. Next, consider your tone. The problem with email and social media is that it can be difficult to determine the tone. You may mean something as a joke, but if it comes off pushy or angry, you can cause an unintended reaction from the recipient. Next, don't be too casual. Getting along with your work colleagues can help you do your job better, but don't take it too far in your communication on the job. Next, check your grammar. Spell check is your best friend on the job. Always proofread anything you type, whether it be an email, tweet, or letter. Next will be keep criticism constructive. If you manage others, you want them to do their best. Work to ensure your comments aren't emotionally charged and that person you're speaking will grasp what you're trying to say when given feedback. Next will be restate what you hear. Rephrasing what your coworker or boss says to you by repeating the important points shows you are listening and understanding what you are told. Next will be get a little personal. People let their guards down when you talk about their lives outside the work. That's always a good way to build some type of communication because they'll feel like they trust you. And last, never stop improving. Effective communication is a skill you must always practice. Now I have a fun little exercise as we talk about different communication scenarios. Now, I'm going to read you the scenario and you decide what's the best answer, multiple choice. Scenario 1. Two employees are having a confrontation. One is being aggressive and the other employee is submissive. As a manager, what should you do? A, wait until they're done. B, walk away like nothing happened. Or C, break it up and calm them down. Now, if your answer was A, you're correct. No, I'm joking. The correct answer, in my opinion, would be break it up and calm them down. Now let's look at scenario number 2. A couple employees are joking around and teasing their coworker. You overhear their conversation. You feel like it's going left field. What should you do? A, join the conversation. B, diffuse the situation before it goes too far. Or C, stay in your office and mind your business. Now, me personally, I would choose B, diffuse the situation before it goes too far. Now, on the next slide, let's talk about what makes people listen. Now, to me, positive speaking styles will also make someone listen. Trust. Being able to trust that person and know that they have your back and you're comfortable with what they're saying will also make you listen to them. Next will be authenticity. Next will be clarity. Then it will be, I would say, eye contact. You always want to be able to look the person in the eye when you're talking to them. Hand gestures is another good way to have people understand what you're talking about. Be aware of body language. Be nice. And then lastly, be careful not to make offensive remarks. Persuasion versus manipulation. Now, let's talk about what persuasion and manipulation is. Persuasion is the act of causing people to do or believe in something. And manipulation is to change by artful or unfair means so as to serve one's purpose. Now, what's the difference between the two? The difference is the intent behind your desire to persuade that person, the truthfulness and transparency of the process. Manipulation implies persuasion with the intent to fool, control, or contrive the person on the other side of the conversation into doing something, believing something, or buying into something that leaves them either harmed or without benefit. It may also imply that you are concealing a desire to move them to your point of view in a way that will benefit you. And if this benefit were disclosed, that revelation will make the other person far less receptive to your message, because it would either demonstrate a strong bias towards the lack of benefit in the exchange, demonstrate an ulterior motive for the attempt at persuasion, often driven by one-sided benefit, or some combination of both. So let's give an example. Let's say I was selling somebody a car, and I had all of my tools of persuasion and strategies. That person walked into my dealership and was apparent that they had a family and 6 kids. And they were looking for, let's say, maybe a family-sized vehicle. But I then leveraged all of my persuasive abilities to convince the parent that he shouldn't be buying a minivan or a family-sized vehicle. Maybe he should be buying a 2-seater convertible. And knowing full well that I would make twice the commission on the car, and it was completely unsuitable for them. But my goal is to persuade them so I can get that commission. Now here in the next slide, I have some supplemental materials that I think will be very interesting to read. It also talks about persuasion and manipulation, um, different ways to make people listen to you, and other communication scenarios that might benefit you in the workplace. Discussion questions. Question number 1. What communication skills do you need to improve on, and why? Do you respect someone who is a great speaker more than someone who isn't, and why? Question number 3. What communication method do you prefer? Talk in person, talk over the phone, talk by mail, and why? Well, this wraps up week 5's mini learning module, and I look forward to talking to you next week.